Started out at 1 West under Commander Jenny Yohana. This is Monday night history class. I'm Officer Maashiala, Officer of 50. And we're gonna get into the paganism of New Year's. We're gonna fill in for Officer Yawa till he gets in. So let's go ahead and get started. We got anybody on the conference call? Got anybody on the conference call? All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So the paganism of New Year's. New Year's is a pagan holiday. The Lord don't like the holidays of your oppressor. And it's all throughout the Bible that he does not like the holidays of the oppressor. Officer Napash, can you give me Amos 5:21?
Amos 5:21.
Amos 5:21. Go ahead.
This book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 21. I despise your feast days.
Right, stop right there. See, the Lord hates and despises your feast days. So that lets you know right there, you should not be celebrating any holiday. Anything other than what's in the Bible. The New Year's is very pagan. Can anybody in the classroom give me some examples of why New Year's is such a pagan holiday? Go ahead.
Like you said, it's not one of the holy days in the Bible, and New Year's New Year's is not like how the pagan New Year's, they start in the middle of winter, but New Year's in the Bible does not start until Passover time, springtime. That's when winter is over. So it's not the right time to be celebrating a New Year. It's not the beginning of a new year. It's, like you said, a pagan holiday.
Khan says that's correct. We celebrate our New Year's around Passover time in April. So that's the beginning of our year. But us being entwined with our oppressor, we have to follow their feast days, but we don't have to celebrate. Can anybody give me some examples of some of the evil things they do on New Year's? Anybody in the classroom? Go ahead, Officer Napash.
It calls people to sin, because the first thing they want to do, they want to go out and get high. When they get high, start partying, it's going to be a increase of rapes and murders, and high level of black men and Hispanic men getting arrested, and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons it's a pagan holiday. See, the Most High don't want our brothers hating each other. That will happen around the holiday season. No, it could be any holiday season, because the so-called oppressor, get our women to, the rule over us to, we got to buy them this gift or get put out of the house. Or you ain't gonna give them that Valentine's Day gift. And stuff like that, because you hear stories all the time around pagan holidays, somebody getting killed because we trying to transgress the laws that the Most High gave us. So that's one of the reasons right there.
Okay, get that brother a hand. All right, anybody got any more examples of evilness that happens on New Year's? Anybody? I got one. I'll say, going out and shooting guns in the air. Those bullets go up, they got to come down.
Right.
Innocent bystanders get hit on New Year's. It's millions of people out there shooting millions of bullets. You don't know where they're going, especially if they're not being responsible. You got a lot of people, getting drunk, accidents happen. A lot of people getting killed on New Year. If you watch the news the next day, you'll see all kind of bad things happen on New Year's. We got anybody on the conference call? All right, we'll go back to the book of Amos 5:21. Read that again, Officer Potts.
The book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 21. I despise your feast days, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. Verse 22. Though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither I will regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts.
God, stop right there. So he's pretty much saying he don't really care what you offering. He don't like the feast days of the oppressor. The only day the Lord likes is our high holy days. That's it. All right, Officer Napash, you can give me the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 2.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 10, verse 2. Thus said the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven.
All right, hold on right there. Thus said the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. What is the way of the heathen? The way of the heathen is following his holidays. It's following what he does. Learn not the way of the heathen. Keep going.
For the heathen are dismayed at them. Verse 3. For the customs of the people are vain.
Got it? All right.
Brother Ed. I appreciate it. Good work. That brother's first time teaching. That shows you what Commander Jehan is doing. He bringing up priests, you know what I'm saying? He been doing since 1969, man. Been raising up brothers, getting them out the world. This brother, he got his whole family in the truth, man. His whole family is out here in the truth. That's the one more family that's not celebrating a wicked holiday called New Year's. That's just one more family that's been saved, right? But then you talk about you in Christian church, they say all you gotta do is believe, right? And you save. But no, this is what salvation is right here. Because banging the tambourine, that can't save you, right? Church, Christmas carols, they ain't gonna save you. All that's gonna do is give you a sense of whatever they say, give me joy in my heart, but then you go right back into captivity, man. Because here's the thing. Do y'all know why the Most High don't want you to serve and do these different holidays? Do y'all know why? Anybody know why he doesn't want you to celebrate these holidays? What's the spirit of why he don't want you to celebrate it? What is this?
So like you said,
When you
the
done.
spirit of, I can't get the word I'm trying to say, but it's not of the truth, it's not of the Lord.
That's part of it. You're right. I want you to get to a certain point of it, but I'm gonna break it down. Go ahead, sis.
Would it be a spirit of worshiping other gods?
That's like the most important, but it's like a point I'm trying to bring out with it. So I'll break that down, all right? The reason, the spirit of celebrating these holidays is that it makes you weak and it makes the other nation strong. Get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Think about how one of these days I'm gonna bring out that the fake Jews, the Jewish people, and show how basically when there was a time when they was getting pressure from the east and pressure from the west. The east was from Islam, and they was getting pressure from the west, which was the Christians, right? The Catholic Church.
and they said, we're going to be Jews. We're going to go to Judaism because we didn't want to be servants to any of those other people. Because right now, if you were Christian, what does that make you now? You a servant to the so-called what? The so-called oppressor, right? Because you a Christian. This is where you get your whole thought process, right? Your whole what's the word? Begin with M. Escape me. Your moral system, your system of values. You get it from them because they're the ones providing you your God. You got to go to them to get clarity on your God. See what I'm saying? If you believe in Islam, what you got to do? You got to go to Mecca, right? You got to go to Mecca. You got to kiss that rock. You got to. Got to kiss that rock, right? Because you serving their gods. Because like right now, like I always mention sometimes, like when one person I know, he was a Muslim, right? Yeah, he just shows me exactly how much of a slave that he just traded in one slave master for the other. Instead of being a slave master to the so-called oppressor, he became a slave master, a slave to the Arabs. So all he did, he just traded one for another. He's still, don't get me wrong, he's still a slave for our oppressor because he has to work in the system. But I'm talking about, it's like he's physically in bondage to the oppressor, but mentally in bondage to the Arabs. So now he don't know which way to go. Right? That's why all these things fail. They don't save black people because you just align it to another nation of people. And then guess what's gonna happen when you align yourself to another nation? What happens when a woman aligns herself with a wicked man? What happens?
She becomes wicked also.
You become wicked as well, right? What does it say? A portion to I'm paraphrasing, but a wicked man's portion is a wicked woman, vice versa, right? That's what happens. So when you align yourself to them, you become wicked because like I'm trying to get thinking about a better way to explain it, but it's like because now when you see what they're doing, they can do these things because they're not under a covenant, right? They don't have the same covenant that you have. So it's fine. It's just like you got children outside your house. You don't give a damn what they do, but your kids better be in the house at 8 o'clock, right? You don't care, like, what do you expect? Well, Tommy, he get to stay out. I ain't Tommy Daddy. You know what I'm saying? That's how the Most High feel about us, right? He don't give a damn about what these other nations is doing. He wants you to follow what he wants you to do. And then that's why we the ones that get punished for it. He, like I said, he don't care about all these wicked traditions, right? Do y'all know where these traditions come from? All right, I guess somebody gotta have scripture breakdown class in here too. You know where they come from?
Roman Catholic Church.
But I gotta give me more. Give me like biblically where it comes from. It shows you in the Bible where it comes from.
Biblically. Babylon.
Huh?
Babylon.
You're right, but where's the beginning of it? You don't know?
Beginning of it?
Where's the beginning?
Sorry, that question again?
Huh?
What that question again?
Okay, the question was, where does all these fake religions come from? All these false gods, where do they come from? He said the Babylonians. Where's the beginning?
Egypt. Did you say Egypt? No, you need more.
Money. Gotta go further back.
Further back than that?
Go ahead.
You're not talking about Nimrod, or before back.
Before Nimrod. Come on, officers, now. Come on. What book is literally called the beginning?
Genesis.
There you go.
Garden of Eden.
The brother, yes.
Oh,
The Garden of Eden. Go to book of Genesis for me. Who wants Shamar? You want some more? Okay, you get it from me, all right?
Okay, so.
Give me 16, 2 and 16.
The book of Genesis, chapter 2 and verse 16. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest eat freely eat, Salaki.
Yep, so this tree, this garden, you may freely eat, right? So, do y'all know what this garden is? Y'all know, like, do you know what the tree is representation of? Go ahead.
Representation of other nations.
You right, but that's not what I'm looking for the exact moment to break it
Okay,
down.
Salaki, the tree is the culture that, well, he said you can eat.
Like, okay.
You can eat freely from this tree. So
okay.
He's saying, like, follow this tradition, I guess you could say. Is that what it's saying?
But where's he looking at to see it? That's the better question. Where's he looking at to see it?
Like, I don't know.
He's looking in the sky. The Most High is right, getting it to him through the constellations. Right? He's writing. He opened his mind. That's why he said he took him from a low place. He brought him so now he can read and understand Hebrew. Because there was a time that humans, they didn't read or write, right? Then the first language was Hebrew, right? That's where the language came in at, and he was teaching them the law through the constellations. So the other ones, it was a tree. You were right, they were other nations, but that wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I probably should have rephrased it a little bit better. But those were other nations. Like you can go to Ezekiel. Oh wait, but finish reading this for me first.
Okay. Verse 17. But of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. So this the tree of good and evil. You may not eat of it. So there's a certain part you're supposed to read, the certain compilation you're supposed to read to get the law, right? This you can compare this to how we read to get the truth. And then there's another scripture said there's the reading of many books, right? Heard about that scripture? You can read all the books you want, but this is the book you need to be focused on. And it's like, you go to everywhere else. You got Buddhism, right? All of them got books, right? Mm-hmm. Those are the constellations. Mm-hmm. Those are knowledge of good. That's the knowledge of good and evil right there. Mm-hmm. It's they books. They Judaism, of course. You know what I'm saying? Christianity, following Kemet. That's all of they books. That's the knowledge of good and evil. God, he didn't want you to know nothing about that. Just like you protect your kids, right? You don't want them to know that if they put their hand on the stove, in the zone, of course, they're going to burn their hand. You don't want them to learn the hard way, right? You don't want them to know that. You want to protect them. And God, he didn't want us to know the evil that there was. But what happened? He wanted to know the evil, you know what I'm saying? That's why, and who led him to do it? Through his woman, right? That's why Satan, a lot of times he comes to you through your woman. He don't come to you, right? He come through your woman because your woman can put it on you, boy, you know what I'm saying? She can get to you. She know how to manipulate your mind, right? To get you where she want, right? Oh, God.
That's why they say, what's the two most powerful things in this planet, on this earth?
Money, it's lucky.
Lie. Go ahead.
I come concern the truth and the woman.
Here you go. Yeah, brother Ann. The truth and the woman, right? Because it was a story in, I think it's in Apocrypha, I believe. And it said the king, he said he wanted to know what the most powerful things was on this earth. And then he said that, he was saying alcohol, he was saying, wine, money, all of this stuff. But he said out of all of that, his woman took the crown off his head and put it on hers. That was the only thing that he ain't even get mad, because he still would get mad. The alcohol, he would wake up, everything. But she took his crown off and put it on her head. But let it been anybody else. He would have killed them, right?
Okay.
So, all right. Anybody else on the conference call? All right, let me take your tickets. All right, give me Ezekiel 34. Ezekiel 34. Let me show you where to go to. Okay, it might be 31.
31.
Yeah, it might be 31. Okay, go to verse 3.
Come, the book of Ezekiel, chapter 34, and verse 3. Ye eat the fat, and ye
No, 31 and 3. Ezekiel 31 and 3.
31 and 3, Salaki. Come, the book of Ezekiel, chapter 31, and verse 3. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon. I'm sorry, Salaki.
It was Lebanon.
Lebanon, with fair branches.
So let's compare the Syrians. They were a tree. They had fair branches, right? That means they had good looking, like things that come out of them, right? Like Christianity on the surface, it looks good, right? Like just take Christmas, man. You just get presents for stuff you ain't earned. It sounds great, right? Singing Christmas carols, it sounds great. That's what it's compared. This is like they had fair branches, so fair things were coming out of it. Fair is a word that just means like pretty, handsome, good looking, pretty much. Keep going.
And with a shadowing shroud and of high stature.
So it had a shroud on it because it was something behind it, right? Keep going. And of high stature. It was standing above all the other trees. Keep going.
And his top was among the thick boughs.
So that's just saying it was just high up. It was shining above all the other trees. You gotta think it's like a tree in the forest. This is the biggest tree in the forest, right? Keep going.
Verse 4. The waters made him great. The deep set him up on high water with her rivers. Salaki. The deep set him up on high with her rivers running round about his plants.
So, water, everything, when you gotta think of when you're like the biggest nation, all of the knowledge, the information comes in through that sea, right? It comes in. Like America, they have all the best knowledge and everything, right? Because they right now that big cedar. They get all of the goods, the information, they get all of that, right? Keep going.
And sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field.
So they feed all the other nations. You know what I'm saying? They feed all the other nations with that. So if you notice, Christianity is even though they might be believing everything else, but Christianity feeds all the other nations. America feeds everything else. Like if it's not the American way, it ain't right. No matter where you go, right? It ain't the right unless you in America. There ain't no better way. Keep going.
Verse 5. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters.
So all of the waters that came in, you got to think of like why was Egypt great? Why was Egypt so great? Because it had you in captivity, right? But then what happens when they have you in captivity? Now you get influences from everywhere else. Just think, like people think that Israelites were the only people in captivity under the Egyptians. That is not true. There was other nations that were in captivity under the Egyptians. It was not just us. We were like the only probably like full nation under the captivity, but there was parts and pieces of every nation that was in captivity, right? You got to remember, even Joseph, before he went to Egypt, right? He was sold as a slave by Arabs, right? So it was other slaves that showed slavery is not what you think it is. Our slavery has always been different than everybody else's slavery. You understand? What other people had to suffer, nobody suffered slavery as a nation like we have. You might have had a handful of people in slavery, but no, we were enslaved as a nation. Everybody, that's how we've always been done, right? All right, keep going.
Come on. When he shot forth.
So when he shot forth, whenever he shot forth, he was always well fed. Like I said, the Nile River, that's what they said all of the information came in, right? You heard them came in, people talking about it, right? They ain't wrong about everything. I mean, well, they write about them being gay. They gay. That is true. That's 100% fact. But as far as them saying the Nile was the highway of information, that's not a lie, right? This is the Bible. It's telling you that whenever the city's the greatest, they're going to be the highway of information. That's what it's telling you.
I was gonna say, those Kimmy folks, they don't want to admit that they the ones that started homosexuality over there in Egypt.
Yeah, I mean, it's all started by them Africans. At least prevailed. It was all done by them Africans. Like that was Sodom and Gomorrah. That was the African cities. They don't want to talk about that, but it wasn't started technically by the Egyptians because it was Sodom and Gomorrah before the Egyptians. But yeah, they were heavy. They was big into drug use. They was doing marijuana way before anybody else, probably for the most part. They was doing cocaine. They was doing all type of stuff. They was putting, man, I might turn y'all stomach. Hey, y'all got a weak stomach. Yeah, y'all looking at me like crazy, but they would put I was gonna say male excrement on lettuce, and they use that as a spice or a dessert, like to put on lettuce. That was the mayonnaise. And they would men do this. Yeah. Not you can women. It ain't gay. Is what it is. But men would do this, bro. Men, yes. You can look this up. This was they considered it like it giving you a life force, because they knew this is what life came from. See what I'm saying? And they would give it to me. This was like a delicacy.
My husband has always hated mayonnaise or anything of its consistency.
Yo, I'm trying to tell you.
Always hated his whole life. He hated it.
And like mayonnaise is sin.
Disgusting.
But like that's what they did. That was seasoning. So I mean, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the tip of the iceberg. You can go into, and they try to say about, one little thing. They said that Jonathan, that the love that David and Jonathan had for each other was higher than the way the love for women. That just means that it was, they loved each other so much they wouldn't let women get in the way of their friendship. They try to say that was homosexual. Like, no, stuff on lettuce is homosexual. They give it to me, that is homosexual. Right? Like, why would you even think of that? Like, let's just show you how nasty these heathens are. Like, some thoughts wouldn't even cross people's minds, but it would cross their mind, right? So,
I can't even look at lettuce again.
you're like, eating mayonnaise, lettuce, ain't nothing. You don't even want a sandwich no more. But I'm just telling you, this is their culture. So, you can look all this stuff up. I'm not making it up. You can Google it. They did this. So, go ahead.
The general brought out recently, they got an artificial sweetener called aspartame, right? Aspartame is the E. coli. And he used it, like Donald Rumsfeld came out with it with his company. They use it as like, you know, so you gotta be careful eating your artificial sweeteners. They should what they call pure sweet, whatever it's called. It's aspartame. So it's a lot. So the devil's the person about to speak something.
Exactly. Like I seen on even on YouTube or Facebook, one video somewhere, they was taking elephant dung and they making wine out of it. Man, it is tripping. Like how our oppressor is, they gonna find a way to take the worst substance and make it into a profit. Like, have y'all ever I you know, I used to drive trucks, right? So you ever see like at a truck stop or even sometime at a gas station, it would say DEF on there. Had like a little blue knob, it would say DEF on there, right? That's called diesel exhaust fluid, right? It's supposed to make your exhaust not as toxic to the air, right? You know what stuff is made out of?
What's that?
Urea. What you? Yes. Waste products, exactly. That's what it's made out of, and they make that into a profit. They take the cows, they was letting it go, and they said, let me take this up and do something with it to make some money. Just to show you, that's literally what this is. That's why I like it on there. If it gets on the side of your truck, it leaves a white mark on there because it's acidic. It's crazy. It just that's what they do. They'll take it. I'm surprised they ain't trying to put it in your food. I'm surprised of it. So, but all right, keep reading for me.
Verse 6. All the fowl of heaven made their nests in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young. And under his shadow dwelt the great nations.
Break that down.
All great nations.
Break that down for me.
All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs. So is that saying like all the different countries, like came to say like America per se, I guess you could say. So they all came here and made their nests in America.
Give me an example.
Could you say the United Nations, something like that?
Close. Give me an example though. Give me like it's one that began with a P. You just celebrated them a couple two little so-called holidays ago.
Pilgrim?
There you go, Pilgrim.
Oh, okay.
They set their nest, right? They set their nest in America, right?
Okay.
So you got other countries coming in and putting their nest in America, right? You got people like they always try to say that, like they say it's like Hispanic brothers and Mexicans is like the issue with immigration. What they say is a higher rate of them Dracula speaking people coming in than anything.
But so like, is that Venezuela?
What are you talking about?
You said the Dracula people.
The Dracula speaking people, the East Europeans. You want to sound like Dracula from Transylvania? Come on, now, you ain't get with me. Sound like Dracula, don't they?
Okay.
Vladimirs and all that.
Yeah, there you go. Then Russians kind of come.
Yeah, there's more of them coming over than anything. You go to Chicago, man, you throw a rock, you hit 10 of them. I'm serious, they all over the place. You just don't realize they start talking. You know what I'm saying? They all over the place. Right?
Okay.
But you worried about Mexicans. They tell you be worried about Mexicans, right? But ain't Russia and America supposed to be beefing? They coming over here. What do you think they doing? Taking their money, sending it to Russia. Anyway, like I said, they got you worried about Mexicans that's trying to, make, work all day, work 12-hour shifts for $5.25.
like y'all the one, just like we at war with the Afghans, and they send them all back over here and give them money.
Yeah.
Like we just at war. That don't make sense.
Because they not the enemy. You are.
Right, come on.
That's what we gotta realize. We think we're not their enemy. We think we're their friend. No, they are all each other's friends. You are their enemy. Then when they fight, it's like a sibling rivalry. You are the real enemy. What does Psalms 83 say?
They make a tumult. A crafty counsel.
There you go. They taking crafty counsel against us.
Mm-hmm.
They taking counsel and they fighting against us. They don't care about each other like that. They don't. It's not the same. Like even Africans come over here. It's not the same. They don't treat them the same as they treat us. You don't know about all of what you go over to the medical industry. Ain't none of Africans there. You think they black? They blue black. They that type of black, right?
Right.
So, and they taking over the medical industry. They don't care. They'll let them get a whole field that they had. But when we had our fields that we had, what they had to do, they had to come take it out of our schools. They had to put crack in our neighborhoods. Why ain't no crack going into African neighborhoods? Why ain't no crack going? Why isn't it? You think they don't like crack? Do you think we only people that like crack? Drugs is universal to every nation. They use drugs more than we do. You think they won't like crack if they get some of it? They'll love crack. But the thing is, they're not trying to destroy them. They're trying to destroy you. Because they know you're the great nation. They know that if they took their foot off your neck for what? Well, how long was we free? What, 50 years, and we created cities all over America that was doing better than them? 50 years? Imagine we had 100. Just think if they didn't destroy the cities, and they didn't destroy our mentality of stay sticking together. Let's say if it was still segregated to this day, think of how big Israel would be right now. We'll have cities all over the place, right? We own everything. You ain't got to worry about your kids being unsafe. You had your own police force. They didn't want that, right? They don't want you to have your own. They want you to be subservient to them. All right, give me that next verse from me.
Verse 7. Thus his fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters.
So he was fair. He looked good to everybody, right? In his greatness. So, and it's like, how do you say it? The length of his branches was like his glory. You get what I'm saying? So like, you know how like the glory of a woman is like how long her hair is? That's like the glory of, it's comparing the glory of how, because the longer your branches is, the more your reach and your influence is, right? Because the bigger branches are, the more you can take up sunlight, right? So that's what it's comparing it to. All right, keep going.
Verse 8. The cedars in the garden of the Most High.
Who?
The cedars in the garden of the Most High.
There you go, the Most High. Keep going.
You got about the conference call?
Yeah, I saw it.
I'm gonna read for the recruit on mic. Bring it off phone to the mic. And the bar too.
All right, got it.
You wanna do one?
Hey, Azar. 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 Can you hear me? Azar Yala. Anybody on the conference call?
I'm back, sir. The book of Ezekiel, chapter 31 and verse 8. the cedars in the garden of the Most High could not hide him. The fir trees were not like the boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches. Nor any tree in the garden of the Most High was like unto him in his beauty.
So that's what shows you the, what did Eve say? What did Eve and Adam say? It looked good to the eyes to consume, right? These other laws, these other nations, their traditions, it always looks good in everybody else's eyes. That's why I said it cannot hide it. It cannot hide it. If you try to hide it, but they kept looking back like, that look good over there, right? And it said the fir trees are not like his boughs. It wasn't the same. So because all of the nations, all of their traditions look better than ours does, right? All of them look better. So that's why you can always tell who the Israelites are, because we the only ones that want to say that we not the real Jews. We not the children of God, because everybody else's traditions look better. Let me see if I can find this other scripture for y'all real quick. Let me see. Find that. Give me Revelation 22:1.
The book of Revelation, chapter 22 and verse 1. And he shewed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal.
So this is John, the Revelator, right? He's talking about God showed him a true water river of life, right? Pure as crystal. It's the truth, right? Keep going.
Proceeding out of the throne of the Most High and of the Lamb.
So he showed it coming out of the Most High and out of the Lamb. The Lamb is Christ. It was coming out of him. Keep going.
Verse 2. In the midst of the streets of it, and on either side of the river was there the tree of life.
So it's the tree of life. So this is talking about the actual tree that we're supposed to be learning from. This is not talking about the other trees that look good in the garden. Maybe say you can eat off all of the trees except for this tree. These are the other trees. These are the trees you're supposed to be eating from. Keep going.
Which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations.
It's for the healing of the nations, because when we follow this law, now all of the earth is going to rejoice when we follow the law. That's what we don't understand. Like, we know the oppressor is winning, right? But you know, guess what? There's some oppressors that's in mourning. Because what did that one person say that was on Cross the Line? He said, across the line, he said he would trust Captain Tazar. This is an oppressor. He said he would trust Captain Tazariot in the courtroom to be the judge than the oppressors that his own people. Wow. Now that's heavy right there.
Yeah.
Want to say something?
Nah, I was just like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, he would trust us, the men of God, over his own people. Now that's heavy, right? That's heavy. That shows you that. Because he knows that he's going to be judged appropriately. He know that even in his own system that he's designed supposed to win, he just might not in this case. He know that. He'll rather be judged by a nigga and Spix. Right? Alright. I went on a tangent a little bit. Let's go ahead and get into this New Year's live. Alright. Turn it to scripture breakdown. Here we go. Okay. Alright. So, alright, what y'all know about New Year's? Just kind of like, that y'all do, everybody go shoot stuff in the air, do some fireworks. That sounds real good, right? It's just fun, right? It seems like it's harmless, right? It really seems like if we had to think about it, objectively, it sounds harmless. Like it sounds like, okay, what's wrong with doing this? But the issue of it is, that's really Satan talking. That's your Christian mind talking. Trying to say what's wrong with that? Because do you think of Christians, especially black and Hispanics, that say they love God? Do you really think if they knew honestly in their heart, in their mind, that they would still celebrate New Year's Eve if God went down and said if God literally said, to them, they think God's speaking to them, but we all know God ain't. That's demons talking to them.
Right.
You ain't got no relationship with God, right? So if they really was hearing God say this, they heard it was on Mount Sinai. Well, hell, they still don't matter. We still don't follow God.
Right.
But I'm just saying, but you would know more people will follow God if they honestly knew that this was evil. They don't think that it's evil because why? They've been lied to. They've been told a sweet story, right? They've been taught. They've been convinced that they own religion is not to be followed. Boy, that's some trickery right there. Somebody says, "Sluggy."
No, so I guess just want I was away from the phone when I was calling you, so it's like
Oh, no sweat. So
Like you said, they also think like, they had a bad year, they did some bad things in that year, and at the beginning of the year, they celebrate because it's gonna be a new year. Everything gonna be right, and they ain't gonna do whatever. They gonna leave all that old stuff in the past, and they end up.
And that's heavy too, because I'm gonna show you on that why that's so evil. Go ahead.
Like the service also saying, then they have adopted the tradition of doing the greens and black eyed peas about getting wealth and stuff.
Like, you don't even realize how pagan that is. The greens and black eyed peas, that is literally a Greek tradition. But they would also add pork in those greens. That's what y'all didn't. Well, y'all know they do that, but y'all don't know that was a tradition. They add pork in those greens. Y'all thought y'all just added pork and greens just because it tastes good? No, your oppressor told you to do that. We don't even realize this stuff. This was a New Year's feast. Like you got the Thanksgiving turkey, right? The New Year's the Valentine's and the hearts and the flowers and the chocolates and all of that, right? This was pork and greens. That was a meal, right? You didn't even know all this stuff, did you? So you go to church, you just go there, learn, praise Jesus, and that's it. Bang the tambourine and go home.
Like I say, you think that the green mean money and the black eyed peas mean luck, and then you still end up that year.
Same way you were last year. Do y'all know where that even comes from?
Nah.
The New Year's resolution.
Nah.
I'll show y'all, alright? Alright. I should have this phone number. Okay. Trying to make sure I got the right one. Alright, I got like 4 different articles. I just want to make sure I send you the right one to read first. Let me see who's that. Okay. Do y'all know what God is the God of New Year's? What's the God's name?
So like I said,
Go ahead.
so the third Genesis was
There you go. Get that brother in.
beginnings.
Alright, new beginnings. This is a God. Let me see if I can show you a picture of this guy real quick. I don't know about y'all, but I like pictures. I like to see, like visually. You know what I'm saying? That's how I gotta see visually. Let me see. This is Janice, right? It's a two-headed God. Okay? It's a two-headed God. The reason why this God has two heads, can you guess why?
One head looking forward and one looking back at.
Yeah, that's just the heads. You know a little something. You study Greek mythology or Roman mythology or something?
No, sir.
Okay. So yeah, one is looking forward, one is looking behind. So this is the God of new beginnings. Right? Have y'all ever wondered, this is a side note a little bit, have you ever wondered why it seems like the days of the year is off? Like DEC for December means 10, October means 8, the Oct means 8. You ever notice that? Nobody ever notice that? I must have too much time on my hands or something, y'all. But if you know, it's like, octagon, that means 8. Decagon means 10. That's why I say December, October, all of that. Though November, it means 9. Why it's like that? It's because even at a point in time, that wasn't even the New Year's. They changed this, I'm trying not to get the dates wrong, but I think in the 1700s. But it's either 1700 or 700. I know it's a big difference in time, but they changed it at one point because it used to be in March. Because that's the actual New Year, because the spring is coming. You know what I'm saying? But our president, he can't do nothing right. He got to be crooked on everything, don't he? Everything got to be, like when this road goes straight, he got to go that way. Right? Everything got to be different. But that's why that is, because this is not supposed to be, January is not supposed to be the first beginning. But they start changing everything into now. That's why Janus, they put this guy first as the beginning. That's where all this stuff comes from. Alright? Alright. And it took my reader. Yeah, let me see here. Good, so I want to start at. Okay, how do we do our years, right? We do it on the lunar cycle, right? They do theirs on the solar cycle, right? So we go by how many times the moon goes past, shows, on the earth, goes around the earth. That's a month. So, all right. It says on the January 1st of every year, many countries around the world celebrate the beginning of a new year, but there is nothing new about New Year's. In fact, festivals and celebrations marking the beginning of a new calendar year have been around for millennia. While some festivities were simply chances to drink and be merry, many other New Year celebrations were linked to agricultural and astronomical events. So, y'all remember last time I talked, we was talking about Christmas, right? We was talking about Saturnalia, right? Y'all remember that it was a part of that time where they just went buck wild, drinking, having sex, everything just partying, right? What did that sound like? New Year's, right? That's where that starts to come from, because they're celebrating the new year, because now that's why they can be a whore this year, and the new year is different. You're a different person now, right? They can go and do everything they want to do that year and leave that in the past. Like one of the traditions, like you ever heard of them say, well, we got to bring in the new year? Like this is simply, like it's so silly that it's talking about a man. What he would do is when the man of the house, he would open up the door when the new year, when it hits 12 o'clock, and then until it hits 12:01, he would close the door. That's how he brought in the new year. It's silliness, right? What they call it? Superstitions. That's all it is, superstitions. It doesn't mean anything. So, but that's what they would do to bring in the new year. That's what they would do a lot of partying, drinking and all this. Not drinking is not a sin, of course, but what you do because you inebriated is a sin, of course, right? So, Alright, let me get back to here. And it says the new year doesn't have to begin on January 1st. In Egypt, for instance, the year began with the annual flooding of the Nile, which coincided with the rising of the star Sirius after a 7-day absence. This typically occurred in mid-July and was celebrated at a festival known as Wepet Rempet, which means opening of the year. The new year was seen as a time of rebirth and rejuvenation, and it was honored with feasts and special religious rites. The Phoenicians and Persians, on the other hand, began the new year with the spring equinox in March. Most people started in March, right? The Persian New Year is called Nowruz, and is a 13th spring festival, which is believed to have originated as part of the Zoroastrian religion, although official records of Nowruz did not appear until the 2nd century. Most historians believe the celebration dates back at least as far as 6th century BC. Nowruz traditions such as bonfires and colored eggs are still celebrated in Iran and other parts of the Middle East and Asia. So you see how people would do bonfires, New Year's, celebrate New Year's, setting fires, fireworks. Fireworks was, you know why fireworks are for? Fireworks are Chinese. What they would do is they made fireworks because they believed that it scared away like demons and evil spirits. So they would make fireworks. All of the firecrackers would scare them away. Right? Let's see here. Go down a little bit. The first day of the lunar new year, meanwhile, occurs with the second new moon of the winter solstice, popularly referred as the Chinese New Year. Millions of people across China, Korea, Vietnam, Japan, and other countries celebrate this event, which is called the Spring Festival. The Chinese New Year is one of the oldest extant traditions in the world. The holiday is traced back as far as 3 millennia ago, with origins in the Shang Dynasty in its earliest days. The festival was linked to the sowing of spring seeds, but it was eventually found ties to a fascinating legend. One popular version of the myth discusses the annual exploits of a bloodthirsty creature called Nian. Now, the Chinese word for the year, that's what they call it, the year, the Nian. To protect themselves and frighten off the beast, villagers decided to decorate the house with red ornaments, burn bamboo, and make loud noises. The tactic worked, and bright colors and lights are still present in China's New Year's festivities today. The loud noise, of course, were the firecrackers, the fireworks. That was supposed to be used to scare off, evil spirits, right? Akitu. This is the world's earliest New Year's festival. Although the Chinese New Year is ancient, it is not the earliest recorded New Year's festival. That record dates back to ancient Babylon, some 4,000 years ago. It was deeply intertwined with religion and mythology. For the Babylonians of ancient Mesopotamia, the first new moon following the vernal equinox, the day in late March with equal amount of sunlight and darkness, heralded as the start of a new year and represented the rebirth of the natural world. So in the time in April, where it's just it's 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of sundown, that's when they celebrated this. This was the beginning of the year turning over. So they marked the occasion of a massive religious festival called Akitu, derived from the Sumerian word for barley, which was cut in the spring. That evolved into a different ritual on each of its 11 days. During Akitu, statues of the gods were paraded through the city streets, and rituals were enacted to symbolize their victory over the force of chaos. So they used these statues and said that this was a victory over the force of chaos. So they would have these like New Year's, like the party, like Christmas, Don't think they weren't celebrating their version of Christmas, right? They did all kind of crazy. And now the gods got them out of chaos, right? Through these rituals, the Babylonians believed the world was symbolically cleansed and recreated by the gods in preparation for the new year and the return of spring. In addition to the new year, Atiku celebrated the mythical victory of the Babylonian sky god Marduk over the evil sea goddess Tiamat, and it served as an important political purpose. It was during this time that a new king was crowned, or that the current ruler's divine mandate was renewed. So that's why at the beginning, like right around that year, you see the new presidents come in, right? Right around the same time of the year, they take away their old presidency and they put in a new one, right? One fascinating aspect of the Akitu involved a kind of ritual humiliation endured by the Babylonian king. This peculiar tradition saw the king brought before a statue of the god Marduk, stripped of his royal regalia, slapped, and then dragged by his ears in the hope of making him cry. If royal tears were shed, it was seen as a sign that Marduk was satisfied and that symbolically extended the king's rule. So they would go around, take the, I think is his clothes off, slap and drag the king by his ears. And if he cried, that was saying that Marduk was satisfied, that God was satisfied. Now this is linking the New Year to a Roman god of change and new beginnings. The Roman New Year was originally corresponded with the vernal equinox. The early Roman calendar consisted of 10 months and 304 days. The Vishi New Year beginning at the vernal equinox. According to tradition, a calendar was created by Romulus, the founder of Rome in the 8th century BC. However, that's who Rome was named after, Romulus, right? However, over the centuries, the calendar fell out of sync with the sun. In 46 BC, the Emperor Julius Caesar decided to solve the problem by consulting with the most prominent astronomers and mathematicians of his time. He introduced the Julian calendar, a solar-based calendar which closely resembles the more modern Gregorian calendar that most countries around the world use today. As part of this reform, Caesar instituted January 1st as the first day of the year, partly to honor the month's namesake, Janus, the Roman god of change and beginnings, whose two faces allowed him to look back into the past and forward into the future. This idea became tied to the concept of transition from one year to the next. Romans would celebrate January 1st by offering sacrifices to Janus in the hope of gaining good fortune for the new year, decorating their homes with laurel branches and attending raucous parties, which is crazy parties, right? This day was seen setting the stage for the next 12 months, and it was common for friends and neighbors to make a positive start to the year by exchanging well wishes and gifts of figs and honey with one another. So this is showing that everybody get together. This became a feast day. But we all know, just like the sister said earlier, New Year's is Passover. That's what the New Year is for Israel, right? But theirs is January 1st. All right. Now the first recorded. Matter of fact, let me see if I got it on here. See if I can get which one it is. This is the history of New Year's resolutions. The custom of making New Year's resolutions has been around for thousands of years, but it has not always looked the same way it does today. The ancient Babylonians are said to have been the first people to make New Year's resolutions. Wouldn't it be Babylon, right? Some 4,000 years ago, they were also the first to hold recorded celebrations in honor of the new year, though for them the year began not in January but in mid-March, when the crops were planted. During a massive 2-day religious festival known as, like I said, Akitu, the Babylonians crowned a new king and reaffirmed their loyalty to the reigning king. They also made promises to the gods to pay their debts and return any objects that they had borrowed. These promises can be considered the forerunners of our New Year's resolutions. So you making promises, trying to say that you're gonna do this year, you're gonna lose weight, you're gonna get in shape, all of this, you're gonna get some more money. All of this is coming from a Babylonian practice. They would say they would get more and give more to their gods to do, for the next year. This was their belief system, right? If the Babylonians kept to their word, their pagan gods would bestow favor on them for the coming year. If not, they would fall out of the God's favor, a place no one wants to be. A similar practice occurred in ancient Rome after the reform-minded Emperor Julius Caesar tinkered the calendar established January 1st as the beginning of the new year. Let me see, let me skip ahead. It says January, and this was named, January was of course named after Janus, right? January had special significance for the Romans, believing that Janus, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this word, symbolically looked backwards into the previous year and ahead into the future. The Romans offered sacrifices to the deity and made promises of good conduct for the coming year. So when you think you're a Christian, that you think this is a Christian thing to do, no, this is a Roman thing to do. This is a heathen thing to do, to make promises for the next year, that you're going to do better. You're going to give sacrifices to these false gods for the next year, right? For early Christians, the first day of the new year became a traditional occasion for thinking about one's past mistakes and resolve to do better in the future. In 1740, the English clergyman John Wesley, founder of Methodism, created a covenant renewal service, most commonly held on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, also known as watch night services. So remember, y'all had on watch night services in church, right? You think that makes it better because you go to church and do it. But you eat pork in that church too, don't you? They serve that to you, that pork and greens, you get all that, right? They included readings from scriptures and hymn singing. Of course, they're going to be singing, right? And served as a spiritual alternative to the raucous celebrations normally held to celebrate the coming of the new year. Now popular within evangelical Protestant churches, especially African American denominations and congregations, watch night services held on New Year's Eve are often spent praying and making resolutions for the coming year. This is how you started doing this in church. So you think that, of course, we all think that black people started this. No, the devil started this. He got you into believing that this was now the good thing, the Christian thing to do. That's how you follow Christ. You ain't never heard Christ talk about no New Year's, right? But they say this is the thing that you're supposed to do during New Year's. Sit there and now pray until that's pray the New Year's in. But what did the Most High say? He don't listen to sinners, right? He don't listen to your prayers. Your prayers are nothing to him. So why are you praying and eating pork right there at the same time? Right? Despite the tradition's religious roots, New Year's resolutions today are mostly secular. That means like not religional, right? It's a secular practice. Instead of making promises to the gods, most people make resolutions only to themselves. Why do you think they're making resolutions only to themselves now?
Because they know if they don't keep the resolutions, which they don't have to answer to anybody or what's the word I'm trying to use? Basically, like they don't have to answer to anybody.
You're right, but what have they done though? Go ahead.
Common concert, the water. It's like when you celebrate your birthday.
There you go.
You become God.
Yep. Exactly. They deify themselves. So they don't even. So they went from, that's what I said about birthdays. Birthdays was the day that you yourself, you become a god. That's why we don't celebrate birthdays, right? But a New Year's resolution, they start making promises to themselves. So you're not even making a promise. You're not even making a promise to God. You're making a promise to yourself in a heathen way, right? And focus purely on self-improvement, which may explain why such resolutions seem so hard to follow through on. According to recent research, while as many as 45% of Americans say they usually make New Year's resolutions, only 8% are successful in achieving their goals. But that dismal record probably won't stop people from making resolutions anytime soon. After all, we've had about 4,000 years of practice. We've been doing this for a long time. This ain't got nothing to do with Christ. All right? Any questions so far? That's what, so basically, like I said, this was all coming from just the Roman god Janus. There was a Greek one, it was a dog, it had two faces as well. That was the same god as the one, this one they just made into a person. So, go ahead.
The Greek god Cerberus, Slovakia.
Yeah, I believe that's it, kind of. Cerberus. I know it's what I wanted to talk about next. So I can find it. Okay. I have to get on thumb here for taking my reader, man. I'll never get a reader. Now I got one, he just take it from me. See how you do me? Lost in some kind of way. Let me go here. Y'all gonna love this part. See if I can pull it up. Have you ever heard of the Feast of Fools? I mean, right now we all should feel like fools forever celebrating these feasts, right?
Right.
That is the truth. The Feast of Fools, as described by the French theologians who condemned it in 1445, sounds like a ton of fun. Of course, it's fun to the devils, right? This New Year's Day celebration, they wrote, called up high-ranking church officials in a bacchanal unworthy of their exalted positions. Priests and clerks may be seen wearing masks and with monstrous visages at the hours of office. The theologians recounted. The theologians recounted, presumably with a sniff of horror. They dance in the choir dressed as women, panders or minstrels. They sing wanton songs, which is like lustful songs, right? They eat black puddings while the celebrant is saying mass. They play dice. They run and leap through the church while to blush at their own shame. So they go around dressed like women, panders, I think it's a poor person, and minstrel. Can somebody look at minstrel for me? Go ahead.
Is that a minstrel?
Yeah, minstrel.
I got it, sir.
Go ahead.
Minstrel, now, a medieval singer or musician, especially one who sang or recited lyric or heroic poetry to the musical or accompaniment for mobility. There's also a second thing in this body.
Go ahead.
Con number 2, a member of the band of entertainers, 70 white athletes with black faces performed in a type of stage entertainment equivalent used in the 19th and 20th centuries, featuring songs, dances, and formulated routines based on stereotype depictions of black characters.
That's heavy right there, ain't it? So they will go around. These are supposed to be the priests. They will go around with blackface on, looking crazy. This became like a circus, right? He's supposed to be the priest. Can y'all imagine General Johanna doing this, man? Right? That's the difference between real priests. That's what they were doing, going around in blackface, dressed like women.
Sir, did you say this is going on in the church?
No, this is not technically going on. They got rid of, they kind of like banned it. It was like going on in France.
Oh, okay.
They banned it. But no, it's not really going on. I'm sure they got something. I seen something they were trying to do. They're like, they're trying to bring stuff back they used to do back in the days. They even trying to bring, when I was talking about that Saturnalia, they were trying to bring that back. Because of course, what is it doing? Partying, drugs, and hookers. Like, what is better for them to do, right? All right. They run and leap through the church without a blush at their own shame. They don't have no shame. They out here with no clothes on, right? Officially banned in the 15th century, the Feast of Fools had its origins 300 years before, in the 1100s. And continued as a tradition well into the 16th century. It was memorialized in church documents condemning its excesses and in painting depictions, so like depicting streets full of merry chaos. It appears in Victor Hugo's famous 19th century novel, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, where Quasimodo was swept up in the festivities and crowned the king of fools. This rowdy revelry made, anybody know what reveling is?
Sir.
Go ahead.
It's full of partying and generally reckless abandonment of self.
Okay. So I'm gonna look it up. To take great pleasure or delight, right? This is something that, it's okay to gamble. You're not supposed to revel in it. Don't make it your God, right? Don't, because God, what is He? He wants you to stay strong. If you let this be your advice, that makes you weak, right? You're weak to your flesh, right? And it says another was to make merry, indulge in boisterous festivities. That's what you call it, what they call it down in Louisiana, down there, Mardi Gras. That's Mardi Gras. That's Carnival, right? That's what that is. They do whatever. We say women, they don't have no clothes on, or they take their clothes off for what, beads, right? Show you anything for necklace and beads that you can buy for 25 cents, right? This rowdy revelry may never has been as quite as raucous as it was rumored. It started out as a much tamer liturgical celebration with a crude and outsized reputation for subversiveness. At its heart, though, the Feast of Fools always turned power on its head, a reversal that naturally made church leaders very nervous. So basically, this was the time where, like y'all all know who a lot of, like, it's kind of interesting, but it's like, not interesting, but it's like, it's funny how, you ever notice how, what do you call it? What's that, what's the name of that movie that like women love so much? Gray something with gray in it.
Yeah.
50 Shades of Grey, yeah. Like, they into that crazy, they into that really tough, right? All of them, people that's in power, but usually it's probably the other way around, right? They into that. This is when they get to turn power on his own head. That's where that comes from, turning power on his own head. Because these are men of power, right? They're clergymen, they're, presidents, they're the judicial system. All of the people those people that, there's women that literally get paid to do this, right? The dominatrix, you call it, they literally get paid to do this. So, and who you think their clients are? Your boss. That's who their best clients is your boss. The mayor. Right? That's who their clients is. Alright? There, on the first day of each year, lower members of the clergy would take on the duties of higher ranking priests and bishops. There was, for instance, a Pope of Fools. This inversion of power, though, wasn't meant to bring down the more powerful clergy so much as uplift the lower, the fools. Here were fools in a particular biblical sense, people beloved of God precisely because they were of lower status. So now they're trying to say that it's in a biblical sense they were lower status, so they want to try to bring them up. That is not what it's about. You all know what it's really about. It's about them being able to, like the one thing that's about them that's, they're full of lust all the time. They want to get that out. So they get to get it out the beginning of the, before the new year, and then now they come back, they're a new person, they didn't got it out. That's where Septuagint came from. Because remember, Septuagint was a whole feast of doing all of this. Right? And now as the new year comes in, now you leave that person behind. I can't wait for the next new year, right? There were some elements of merriment to these early Feast of Fools, including the Song of the Ass, which evoked the beauty, strength, and virtues of an ass, as it is a journey from the east across the river Jordan to Bethlehem. This is not talking about what was behind, really. This is what y'all know is talking about a donkey. Just so we're on the same page, all right? It's sometimes involved in actual donkey being led into church. So they would actually bring a donkey into the church, right? And once Harris reports someone did use the celebration as an opportunity to hit a cleric with an inflated and swollen hen's bladder. For the most part, though, he finds no verifiable rowdiness, only second and third hand reports from worry words distant from the actual celebration. Now, here's how it is. When there's any time of people in power, they're of course are going to hide it because they're going to dress up as somebody else, so you don't know where they are. Who you think the KKK members are? Members of big organizations, right? Mayors, lawyers, powerful people. Why do you think they wear the hood? So they're all the same people, right? You don't know where they are. So of course they're not gonna have it on record what they was doing. All right. So it says Harris writes, it became popular for students to parade through the streets with their faces blackened with mud or animal dung to conceal their identities, while they parodied clergy, doctors, civil officials, and rulers. These parades certainly featured cross-dressing, drinking, singing, and all manner of other mischief and behavior that usually wouldn't be tolerated. Wintertime celebrations like these, where the less powerful parts of society had a chance to break loose for a day, trace their roots to Roman and other European pagan festivals of role reversal. They weren't always held on New Year's Day, but in some places the New Year's Feast of Fools took on a second, more secular meaning. So that's the same thing of your birthday. It lets you have power for a day. It's a way that they can try to stop you from being angry for not being a king. They let you be king for a day, so now you just wait for the next time you get a chance to be king. They get a chance to do all these things, they gotta, cause you know how these people are. They gotta get that out. That's why they join the military. The serial killers that are, smart, they join the military. They don't want to go to jail, right? That's why when they come back, they crazy as hell. They can't kill nobody no more and get away with it, right? That's what they do. They don't want to go to jail for killing people, as they do. They go and join the U.S. Army, all right? So any questions on any of that? Any of y'all celebrate New Year's? I ain't get down like that. No fireworks. No shooting guns in the air. The Most High in Christ. So, but yeah, that's kind of the history of New Year's. Not too much. It's not a lot on New Year's because it's kind of like put in with Christmas and Septuagenarian. So that's kind of how it is. And if you notice, all of these come from different guys. So it's like you being a Christian, you don't even realize you serving 50 guys in a year. You doing all of the feasts, but you don't do none of the feasts of the Bible. But you feasting for everybody else. So you doing this, you celebrating Janus, right? You taking any part of this, you celebrating Janus. All right. Hey, young man, can you do me a favor? Can you get the Pasca Yah for me? You know what the Pasha is? Okay. All right, good. All right. No questions at all? I didn't even see him back there. I mean, where the light is right there, too, so. I thought he was still back there. Anybody got any questions at all? Anything anybody want to do anything I want to bring up? Go ahead.
I just want to say real excellent class, real heavy. Learned a lot. The water service, a lot.
No sweat. A lot of him. And also get that brother Mashallah. Give him another hand, man. Give him down, right? First time teaching, man. First time teaching. Been an officer not even the whole week, I don't even think yet. So he got out there to teach. He was nervous, but he still got it done, right? Alright, so that's the thing. When you hear you nervous, you gotta get out. You gotta teach, man. But then watch, he gonna be a powerful priest in there, right? Alright, with that, pass the class over to Priest Marshall of Pasca Yah.
It's Alex Case security announcements. Brother Alex Case started at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Roof for a new brother and sister. When a new brother and sister come to the school, they are limits for 6 months. They are here to be saluted only. They are here to set themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, in the book of Numbers, chapter 18, verse 21. In the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 18 to 10. Ma'ashra means 10 in the Hebrew. Every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the treasury department of teacher. Priest mom. Free will offer for a priest not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you like to give. The next Holy Convocation, the Feast of Esther, is going to be from February 14 to February 15 sundown. If y'all ain't here at February 14, then y'all celebrate Valentine's Day. You can find that in the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 20 to 31. Remind Akim to check the books aboard the hallway. If anyone won't be a trooper to school, start wearing all black, boots, shirt, pants, headband, or scarf. And one more thing you should do, we'll go to the school. You make sure GPS this address is 3353 Glenwood Road, Decatur, Georgia. They have built acronyms up with that. Men in Israel, Amidah. Give Rosh salute to the men and the teacher. Men in Israel, Amidah Sabbat. Amidah. Rock. Y'all about Shem, y'all sharp up the thumb.
Y'all about Shem, y'all sharp up the thumb.
What I just said to you in the Hebrew, may the Most High, in the name of Christ, bless you. Y'all on the top, sorry, turn to Sister Sandy. And give one curse salute to the sisters, men of Israel, Almighty Sabbat, Almighty, Barak, Yahweh Shema, Eretah, B'Hashem, Yahushua.
Yahweh Shema, Eretah, B'Hashem, Yahushua.
What I said to the sisters, may the Most High watch over you in the name of Christ. You out on the top, your hands down, flat dismissed.